in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, we are back. Hello. A couple of things I did not get to. The most miserable member of Congress, who just might be the Democrat nominee in 2028, a guy named Jon Ossoff, O-S-S-O-F-F. He looks good. He's got some pros. Number one, he's trim. He's fit and trim. He's got a decent head of hair. What else? He's rich. He's very rich. But that's also can be a negative. It actually can be a negative in politics and in life. Too much of anything is not necessarily a good thing. All right? It's like too much beauty can cause trouble. Too much money can cause trouble. Too much poverty can cause trouble as well. All right? But here he is. Who's he giving a hard time to? Jay Clayton, the guy who's going to be the next director of national intelligence. He's not good here. And Jon Ossoff, I don't like him, but he won this thing, and he shouldn't. Cut 11, please. Cut 11.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid in Georgia earlier this year?
You discussed that with me yesterday in your office.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year?
You brought it to me, my attention.
What is going on here? You've said at the beginning of this you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. I'm asking a very simple question. Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year? Yes or no? Are you aware?
I was.
You won't answer that question either.
I just said I was made aware of it by you yesterday.
The first time you learned that Director Gabbard was present at that raid was in my office yesterday?
It was the first time that, in my recollection, I've thought about it recently. Now, was I aware of it before?
What?
You brought it to my attention yesterday.
Okay.
I had not.
So you had not known.
I had not thought about it until you brought it to my attention yesterday.
Your answers lack credibility. Your testimony lacks credibility. You're being evasive and you're not being candid or forthright. And everybody across the country is going to watch this and know that. Are you aware that former Director Gabbard testified that her presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president?
I'm not aware of that until now.
Oh, boy. Not good. For multiple reasons. He kind of admitted he was engaged in a little bit of trickery there. Look, I can't stand Jon Ossoff in the grandstanding. But you were not aware of that until yesterday? I could actually understand somebody not knowing that. You know, the Gabbard thing in Fulton County was a story. It wasn't the biggest story. I could see somebody who has a busy job not actually seeing that in the newspaper. I could totally understand that. But he said yesterday was the first time I recall that I remember thinking about it. It was just the weirdest way to answer that question. So you wouldn't say that, yeah, that's the first time. I didn't know that before. But what's worse is, and I think this is what freaks him out, this is what makes him unsure, is that he doesn't think that Director Gabbard should have been there in Fulton County looking into shenanigans with election stuff. But it's part of the purview of DNI, actually, election security. That person is a representative of the president. The president has so much constitutional power and authority. And within his judgment, we gave him that power. Article 2, you can look it up. He has an obligation to do all these things. There is nothing preventing the President of the United States from sending his appointee to go look into anything he wants. Anything, essentially. Just about anything. How is that inappropriate? Does it affect our national security? Yes. End of story. Now, people say President Trump is, well, they say all kinds of things about President Trump. President Trump suspects foreign interference in the 2020 election. I believe he has good reason to have that suspicion. And he wants to track down that theory. And we have to give him that. He has that authority. We don't have to give him anything. But as far as appointees, you guys should You have to do a little bit more thinking. You got to get out of the fake news bubble. That's the thing with Jay Clayton and, quite frankly, to a lesser extent, Todd Blanche. You know, Todd Blanche hung around the U.S. Attorney's Office. And guess what? Those guys are weird. You hang around there too much, you get a little bit weird. Now, with this in mind, you know, John Ashcroft, gosh, this is one of the most beautiful things I've heard uttered in my recent memory, okay? John Ashcroft, former Attorney General for George W. Bush, who James Comey, I think, tried to manipulate when he was in a coma. Somebody tried to manipulate him, and James Comey came off as quite the jerk. But this is what he said yesterday to Adam Schiff. John Ashcroft was there to nominate Todd Blanche. In fact, let's do a little bit of that first. You know, an attorney general, former, sitting down and endorsing the nominee for attorney general, and Ashcroft came from the Bush world. That's saying a lot about a lot of things, okay? That's saying a lot about a lot of things. All positive for Trump and for Blanche. Cut 20, if you don't mind. Cut 20.
Well, thank you, Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Durbin. I'm grateful to you, and please allow me just a moment to extend my condolences to the committee, the friends and colleagues of Senator Lindsey Graham.
Good touch.
He had a vivid history of bringing out the best in people he worked with on both sides of the aisle. And we enjoyed his friendship, and I take this moment to say my condolences and my sympathy also to Jennifer Boss, whose daughter was brutally murdered. Allow me to thank you for your serious consideration and attention to the constitutional responsibility of confirming high-ranking executive branch officials. It's an honor for me to participate with you today by my appearance.
Oh, boy.
Testifying and sharing my profound support for the nomination of the Honorable Todd Blanche as Attorney General of the United States is something for which I am deeply grateful. Justice is best served in the United States through a commitment to uphold the Constitution and laws of this country.
All right, thank you very much.
Integrity.
All good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to cut to the chase, all right? I'm going to cut to the chase. So Shifty Schiff is up there and starts busting his chops and tries to trap him. And then he says a version of something that I've been saying for quite a long time. Hey, he's a former attorney general. He said it better, and it was great. Cut 19, please. Cut 19. This whole thing that the president shouldn't be investigating his political enemies. The president is looking for dirt on his political enemies. And he called that's their big, oh my God, as if that's so taboo, it can't be done. It's unthinkable, it's impeachable. They impeached him. For that kind of rhetoric, that kind of stuff that they convinced themselves. Cut 19 again.
Mr. Blanche has said that he believes the president has both the right and the duty to use the Justice Department to go after his enemies. Do you subscribe to that view?
Thank you, Senator. I believe that the Attorney General of the United States has the right and responsibility to enforce the law uniformly. And if the law has been broken by the president's enemies, he has a duty. They do not become exempt from following the law merely by their enmity to the President of the United States. As a matter of fact, the people who break the law are in enmity with the people of the United States, whose expression of what is the law has been developed in this body and the Congress of the United States. So we used to call people who break the law public enemies.
Well, Mr.
So my view is that whether a person has been a political supporter or not of the President of the United States is not the determining factor regarding prosecution. It's whether a person has violated the law, and in enforcing the law, the Attorney General is carrying out the will expressed in the Congress.
Yeah, and expressed in the Constitution. In the Constitution, it says the President will ensure that the laws are executed faithfully. That's really all it says about the DOJ. It does also say that the president can appoint basically assistants, right, to help him do these things. DOJ ain't the people's lawyer. I hate that phrase. It's the people's lawyer, the people's lawyer, the people's lawyer. Oh, it sounds so great, right? The people's lawyer. Why have a people's lawyer thing? A people's lawyer. The people's lawyer. Here it is. The people's lawyer. Cut 10.
The department cannot target people like an Adam Schiff or Letitia James or Senator Kelly because the president doesn't like what they say.
The idea is that the attorney general is the people's lawyer. It's not the president's consigliere.
Right. That guy is still acting as Donald Trump's personal attorney. He is not acting as the head of the Department of Justice.
Our lawyer, the people's lawyer, not the president's lawyer.
I think it created at least the impression that he was there as Trump's lawyer rather than the people's lawyer.
The people's lawyer, the people's lawyer. It's the president's arm. It's part of the executive branch. And they have so skewed it. And people, even lawyers who should know better, they had to take constitutional law. But they don't know the difference between Article 1, 2, and 3. They don't know the very basics. And you know what? You don't have to be a law school. Or you can be a farmer. You can be a truck driver. That's what our founding fathers had in mind. And thank God for the U.S. Senate. Thank God. I never thought I'd be saying thank God for the U.S. Senate. You know, it's based on not population like the House of Representatives. Mark Levin was great on this. It's based on state, 2 per state. It was a compromise. And I never thought of it this way. But... All right, so you have a lot of people in an urban center. You have a lot of people, say, in what is a densely populated? Let's say New York, even though New York has a lot of rural upstate, right? Let's say New York State, right? All the people there. Compare New York to North Dakota. There are more voters, a hell of a lot more voters, right? What is it, 20 million or something in New York? I think they got less than 1 million in North Dakota. Why is it that they have 2 representatives in the Senate and New York has 2 representatives in the Senate? That sounds unfair. Well, number one, we wouldn't have a union if we didn't have that arrangement. But a couple of things that are so beautiful about the Senate. There are interests of the nation that need to be kind of nationally attended to. For instance, we have more cows in North Dakota. Now, are you representing the cows? No. But you have those agricultural interests, right? Because the people in the cities need the food from the cows, right? That's part of the genius here. And also the idea that, you know, the members of Congress come and go, right? A lot of turnover, 2-year terms, and they're more reactive to the mood of the moment. Whereas in the Senate, you know, 6-year terms, you're not going with the flash in the pan. You have the ability and the bandwidth to think a little bit more long term. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way in practice, right? It doesn't. We got a lot of silly senators, silly people. But we have some good ones as well. Some real, institutionalists, right? Who understand all this stuff. Another from Levin, mobocracy. That's what the socialists want. They get enough people to vote. What did Barbara say? What is a pure democracy? 3 wolves and a lamb voting for what's for dinner. The lamb is going to lose every single time. Now, here's something else that people have to get better with, on my side especially. This question of, did President Joe Biden win in 2020? I don't know why that throws so many people for a loop. It shouldn't. Maybe because they bathe themselves in an electronic bath of fake news all the time. And that's easy to do. It's easy to succumb to without even knowing it. Senator Mark Kelly trying to take on good guy Jay Clayton. Hit it, please.
So can you tell me why Joe Biden was certified as the winner of the 2020 election?
I'm going back to my constitutional law here, but I don't want to continue to have a debate about this, but I believe he had the most electoral votes.
So he won the election?
He followed our process, had the most electoral votes, was declared the winner. And
who has the most electoral votes? Is it the person that wins or the person that loses?
I think that's your characterization. I'm not going to continue to do this.
The reason why we struggle with this, and I think it's especially important in the job you're nominated for, is because it seems that folks who are nominated for these positions just fundamentally refuse to disagree with something the president says. And the problem I have with this is he isn't in the room today. You're going to be in a room with him many times. And at times, you should have a difference of opinion. And if you can't disagree with him when he's not in the room, are you going to be able to disagree with him when you're sitting across from him in the Oval Office or the Situation Room? That's what I struggle with, because this job is different. This job, it's not about
All right, put him on
softening
pause there for a second. Put him on pause. You see, once you get boxed in like that, you're screwed. You're screwed. He just said a moment ago, constitutional law, he hasn't looked it up, you know. He hasn't. He's a Wall Street lawyer. You got to know about this stuff. You got to be ready for this stuff. You got to put yourself in this scenario. You got to think about these election issues. Because I can't say that, you know what? I would say, look, I can't count that high. I can't say Joe Biden won. I can't say he lost. I know it was contested, and I know a lot of these investigations were stopped and stifled and stymied before they even really could take hold, before they started. There were a lot of irregularities. I know for a fact that the election in Pennsylvania was unconstitutional, and I'll go so far as to say illegal. These are the things I can say, okay? I'll also say that Joe Biden was the 46th president of the United States. I'm not contesting that. But as to who got more valid and legal votes, only God knows. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
July 16th, 2026. I knew there was something familiar about today. Does anybody remember that time when we successfully launched that great big ginormous Saturn V rocket to the moon?
20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Tower is clear.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yeah, I'm surprised I missed this. July 20th, 1969, 57 years ago right now, the Apollo 11 Saturn V rocket blasted off to go to the moon and to actually have men walk on the moon. And those men were the late, great Neil Armstrong, the very much alive Buzz Aldrin. He is, let me think here, he is 96 years old. And the late, great Mike Collins, and about 1 million people on the ground who helped make that thing happen. The complexity, the audacity, the just, oh my gosh, it really is sometimes a little bit hard to believe that we can do such things. But I do believe we can do such things, and we did such a thing. I'm surprised at how many people doubt it. You know, everybody, you know, it's like a hobby. It's like a hobby, just doubting things. And no, that's not true. No matter what happens, you're going to have 10%, 15%. Now it seems like 40% are going to just say that didn't happen. Maybe even 50%. I don't know. You know, there's a lot to speculate on. Conspiracy. Look, I don't want to say conspiracy theory anymore because that's very pejorative. And most of the conspiracy theories that I've encountered turned out to be history, correct? What really happened. But that was something else. I was only I was alive, but I was like months old. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm actually glad I was alive. So when I see those pictures of the Earth from the moon in the background, and Buzz, who became a friend of mine, by the way, I have had lunch with Buzz Aldrin. I've had dinner with Buzz Aldrin. I have ridden in a cab with Buzz Aldrin. That was kind of the coolest because I felt like I was in a spaceship with Buzz Aldrin. Every time I see that rocket ship on Apollo 11, I think, I was in a little vehicle with that guy as well. He'd go to the moon, come back, and Be in a car with me. I just found that so cool. They launched on July 16th, got to the moon. I don't know exactly when. I know they walked on the moon July 20th, 4 days later, 3 or 4 days later, July 20th. And we'll commemorate that. But here is, and they say something during this countdown. That's very, very cool. I want to point out one other thing. Yes, Apollo 11 was the first crew to walk on the moon. But you got to remember the Mercury and the Gemini, that program was made, that was like the precursor to Apollo. It was practice Apollo missions. The other thing is Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was the most exciting because we never knew we could get to the moon. We got to moon orbit. Before that, we were never more than 1,000 miles away from Earth. And then we flung a rocket 250,000 miles away. Amazing. And to get to the moon, you got to get to this one little spot between Earth and moon. Imagine if I threw a tennis ball as hard as I could. That's like launching the rocket. And sooner or later, it's going to come back down to Earth. But I had a really strong arm, and I could throw it way out into space. I had to throw it way out into space and aim it at a point where just before it wants to fall back to Earth, the gravity of the moon catches it and starts pulling it into the moon. It's just that we figure that out mathematically, basically without computers, although we did kind of have computers. All right, here's the launch, and the guy says something. The announcer's voice, by the way, a lot of people don't know this, is a guy named Jack King. He worked for the Public Affairs Department of NASA. You might be able to hear a slight Boston accent. He says something during the countdown. I'm going to stop the countdown once I hear this very cool line. Okay, go.
Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Stop. Now, what the hell does that mean? Guidance is internal. I mean, that we have a system that means something to some engineers. Guidance is internal. And as soon as this thing takes off in 1969, it's talking to Houston, not Florida. It's just so cool. All right, where were we? 12 seconds? All right, 57 years ago, right about now. Continue.
11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Here we got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
And it's going. It's going. Hey, stop it for a second. You don't really, it's seeing, not hearing at this point. They don't say that much. Tower clear. That was like the most dangerous part of the launch when you got that great big tower next to you, the launch tower. And they went a lot slower back then than the space shuttle, who cleared the tower so fast they didn't even say clear the tower. Clear the tower. Apparently the launch is incredibly violent. Everybody, all the astronauts were convinced that they were breaking up. And then roll program, and the damn thing rolls. Just incredible. Incredible. And those engines are navigating, not just blasting, but navigating. Now, they walk on the moon, bring back a bunch of rocks. They got to live in a special, facility, airtight facility for a couple of weeks because they're worried about moon germs being brought home by the astronauts. Now, it was a false alarm. There are no moon germs, or if there are, they're not harmful. There's no life up there, so no germs. I think germs have to be alive. Anyway, so everything's great. Everything's great. They get out of this special little quarantine unit, and the three of them, they hold a press conference. And I've watched this press conference. I've watched this before many times. There's something very strange about it. Now, I have a theory as to what's going on here. But remember, these guys just got back from the moon. Life is beautiful. They did the ultimate. And they brought back moon rocks. Yay, the world's so thrilled. And just listen to how they sound at this thing, all right? And they're making all kinds of weird faces. They're not happy. They look angry and sad. Excuse me. Go ahead.
We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon. We will use a number of films and slides which most of you have already seen, and with the intent of pointing out some of the things that we observed on the spot which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking at them here from the surface.
All right,
of
stop
Earth.
for a second. Stop. So that's Neil Armstrong speaking, the first man to walk on the moon, which, by the way, is really a diss of Buzz Aldrin. I mean, they got there at the exact same time in the spaceship. So what if he got out first? And that was a problem for Buzz, because that was like a big thing. The first man on the moon. Neil Armstrong, first man, first man, first man, first man. It's first men. They got there at the same damn time. You know, one got out of the car first. If you did a road trip to California, you know, when you and your buddy, you were trading driving responsibilities, and you go to Santa Monica Pier, and your buddy gets out of the car, and everybody's celebrating. Oh my God, he beat you to California. He beat you to California. He's the first man. What? We drove across the gosh damn country. What are you talking about? Anyway, they're making all kinds of weird faces. The atmosphere in that room is tense. I've heard people talk about it. Now, here's what I think is going on. Some people say that this is proof that they felt guilty and that they really didn't walk on the moon. No, they walked on the moon. But, you know, when you go to space for 5 days, like if you go on a business trip, just because you go on the business trip and you have the meetings and you sell the thing and, you know, from a certain perspective, everything goes well, something on that voyage did not go well. Somebody there screwed up something along the way. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is. I had a theory on one thing, which is, I'll get to that in a second. Somebody messed something up, and they got in trouble. And just before that press conference, they were yelled at. All right? You know, the engineers back home, they were always trying to put the astronauts in their place, right? Make them feel like they were guinea pigs or, you know, lucky to be there or along for the ride, spam and a ham. And they're always putting them down and ordering them to do stuff. So I think that this is my theory now, that something happened, and things happen in missions. I've flown before, and everybody, oh, yeah, the plane took off. You flew out to the range, and you dropped the bomb. You hit the target, and you came home. Yeah, but 5 other things went wrong. And you get to the ground, and you're like, I've seen people get yelled at after flights. I've seen people get grounded after flights. I've seen, all kinds of things happen. Because it's not just, okay, you got to the moon. Somebody screwed something up, and they were just yelled at. Now, here's another example of that, and it's been documented, and it really, really happened. It was Apollo 17 in December of 1972. No, I take that back. It was Apollo 15 in April of 71 or 72. Apollo 15, whenever that was, Apollo 15. They went to the moon, walked on it. They also brought a whole bunch of stamps with them. Stamps, like from the post office. They brought a bunch of stamps from the post office, from America, from some guy in Germany. And once they got to the moon, the two guys, they stamped it. They had a stamp to stamp the stamp. You know when you cancel a stamp, right? Now, why do they do that? Because a guy paid them thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to do it, right? So the stamps would be worth more money if they were stamped or processed or canceled or whatever it is. I never understood. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did collect stamps for a hot minute when I was a kid, and they were colorful and they were nice. But anyway, I did it for like a month. Those stamps were worth a lot of money, and they came back, and somehow it leaked, and they got in big trouble for it. They got in huge trouble for it. One guy was kicked out of NASA. There was a federal investigation, congressional hearings, people yelling at him. It's funny, you don't remember now, but that happened. It was a scandal. Can you imagine going to the moon and coming back and you're in trouble? It also happened in Apollo 17. Gene Cernan, last man to walk on the moon, gets back. Everything's great. Some guy offered him a ride on a private jet because he was going to Hawaii. He went with them, and apparently he didn't file it appropriately. It was a gift, and he got in trouble. And they put a nasty letter in his file, and these astronauts had problems like regular people, like everybody else. They had some, interesting office politics, whatever you want to call it. I have another little moment here. I think this is probably a better preview because it happened just yesterday from President Trump than the one he gave me, because I think it was still a little bit up in the air. But here's President Trump previewing tonight's speech that for some reason have a lot of people nervous. The Democrats are the ones who should be nervous. Go ahead.
Anticipating your big announcement on Thursday night regarding election machines and integrity, can you give us sort of a sneak peek about what to expect and tell the
Well,
audience
I'd rather
America-
save it. It will concern that subject, and we'll have a couple of other things to
Why
say
should people
also.
watch, though?
But I'd rather save it, but it's really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger, because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement. Yeah.
Wow. Bring it on, Mr. President. So appreciate you. We'll be right back. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And oh man, another guy getting raided by the feds for just alleged corruption. The former sheriff of New York City, a guy named Anthony Miranda. Don't know much about him. Always thought he was, professional in appearance. They raided his house, and doesn't look good. Then again, just an allegation, right, or just an investigation. He hasn't been arrested. And Ruben Gallego, oddball senator from Arizona, exclusive report that Swalwell pal Ruben Gallego, they were pretty tight, had sexual relationships with 2 House staffers. How long was he in the staff? How long is he on? I believe he is single. I do believe he is single. I've noticed something, actually. There's a lot of controversial stuff about, more controversial stuff, or stuff that actually happens that isn't controversial, but they make it seem controversial. If you're heterosexual, right? If you're heterosexual. So somehow I see very few people who happen to be gay getting jammed up like this, because writing about the, the affairs, the trysts of LGBTQ is possibly considered by some to be homophobic, right? So it's game on for the straight people. Something I've noticed. It's a trend, actually, a real trend. All right, I got to do some calls. Let's do, okay, Frank, how are you?
How's it going? Hey, so we have a forensic expert who testified under oath, that yes, Dominion's able to remotely connect.
I don't like talking about Dominion. Yeah. I don't talk about Dominion. What do you mean we, by the way? Who's we? And what forum was this? What forum?
This was at the committee. It was this week. It was a couple of days ago.
What committee?
It was a forensic.
What committee?
It was down in D.C. I'm not exactly sure, but
what
it has
committee?
To do with
What committee? What committee? Under oath. Yeah, I don't. I don't. Was the guy's name Haldeman by any chance?
It could have been.
You got to get the facts straight, man. You can't just be, hey, I heard this on TV. What do you think? I need this because you know what? I mean, believe it or not, People have legal bills. Real people that you know and listen to every day have legal bills. Okay? Legal bills. It's tough out there. You picking it up? You picking it up? I appreciate it, Frank. I will look into it. Augustine, how are you?
All right, Greg. Pleasure to speak with you. I was in junior high school 109, and there was a little candy store around the corner that had worn wooden shelves where they kept candy, and you could tear off those paper things with little dots on it. But in the front was a special box at that time, Sputnik bubble gum. I don't know what year it was, but I was in junior high school.
They had Russian chewing gum at the candy store in Brooklyn? That's crazy. That sounds very communist, Sputnik bubble gum. I hope you didn't chew that stuff. You're better off with Bazooka, right?
Rage, blue sparkly stuff.
No, it was Sputnik. Yeah, Sputnik was a crazy. Forgive me, but how old are you?
79.
79. So this is in the. When did they launch Sputnik? Like 59, 60, something like that.
It was
57,
59, 60. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
59,
Sputnik.
60.
I know it freaked out the world. And Sputnik bubblegum. Was it good?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember the flavor, but it was good at the time, I guess.
Yeah, no, Sputnik, and that must have been a very exciting time to be alive. Augustine, we thank you. You in one of those original houses in Levittown?
No, it's a spot builder that built my house. It's California High Ranch, they call it.
Oh, all right, good for you. Thank you very much, Augustine. Keep those memories coming. Barbara, it's your turn.
Hi, Greg. First of all, we all need to know the fact that if someone says, I'm a lawyer or I'm a congressman who went to law school and I know the Constitution, that is probably not true. Most law schools do not teach the Constitution. Most law students have never read the Constitution. Law schools teach constitutional law, which is teaching the Supreme Court rulings, judicial review, etc. They do not teach the Constitution. And the main thing that I was hoping to share with you today is that President Trump does not get nearly the credit he should be getting, especially from groups that I work with, religious liberty groups and pro-life groups. We have been asking for decades for a president to do the things Trump has been doing, and we've been complaining when they don't do them. Now that he's doing them, you don't hear any great thank yous from the pro-life and the religious freedom groups. For example, a month ago, he started a website, moms.gov, that any woman can go to and look up in her area where there are pro-life centers that will help her. No one's talking about it.
Well, I know, and especially the evangelicals. They're holding their nose again when it comes to Trump. He did so much for us.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?